and should be able to see my screen now,
Yes.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Excellent. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go through some very, very basic, simple demos using Ansible, okay? And it's going to be a very sort of basic overview of Ansible and connecting to some Juniper devices, which I've got running on Container Lab or a Juniper device, and just pulling off some information. So it's kind of designed for somebody who's never worked with Ansible before or is new to network automation. And hopefully I'll be able to give you some pointers on how you can use Ansible to achieve that. So probably one of the things you'll hear about with Ansible is that it's very easy. And this is kind of half true, I would say. I think it's a very easy tool to use when things go well, and when things don't go so well, it could be quite difficult to troubleshoot. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, and it's a matter of personal preference whether you use Ansible or if you use a different tool, like if you use Nornir or PyATS or some other tool to actually execute these commands. But for today, it's going to be all about Ansible.
Absolutely. And Juniper.
And Juniper, correct. And we're going to go with a very, very simple example. So the first thing that I've done is I've created an ini file, an ini file, to contain some information. So I've got a host here, and this is the IP address of the Juniper host. I've got some variables inside this ini file. So I've got the username and password, and I've got the network OS. So it's just some parameters to provide to Ansible for
Yes,
Ansible to
guys.
use.
So I would just like to add, guys, whenever it comes to Juniper, just remember Juniper uses Netconf over SSH, which is TCP port 830, and you must allow this port on the network if you want to connect to your Juniper device. Very important. And we need to define the Ansible connection as Netconf, which is a transport protocol, and along with the other login credentials like your username, password, and operating system.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things we've done here is we've got the username and password inside this ini file. Best practice would be that it wouldn't be contained within the ini file. It would be either in some environment variables or within Ansible Vault, and then because that would be more secure. So this is not best practice what we're doing here, but obviously to keep it simple, we've got the username and password inside the ini file, but just be aware of that. So we've got a single host, and that's the IP address of the host. So this is very, very basic. There's not much we need here. We then got two playbooks, and the two playbooks are really simple. The first one is basically just going to execute a CLI command. So in this case, that's a show route command. And so what we do is we give the task a name. The host is Junos. We say gather facts is no. And then these are a list of all the tasks that we're doing underneath this playbook. So we're going to run the command show route, and we're going to register the result or the output into a variable called result. And then what we're going to do in another task is print that to the screen. Okay. So result is the variable. Then we've got the standout lines with the index of 0, and we're just going to print that to the screen. Okay, so really, really simple, hopefully. And then the next thing we've got is this other one here, which is a netconf based connection. And so we've got the same thing again. We're doing gather facts no. We've got Junos facts is the module we're going to use, and we're going to gather the hardware and the interfaces from netconf. We're going to register it as a result, and then we're going to display the details. That's what we're going to do.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that should be the outcome that we're looking for. So let's have some fun and let's
Yeah,
run
let's
these
see it in
playbooks.
action. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. So if we open it up, okay. Now, again, I'm a bit lazy when it comes to typing things in, so I normally put things into like a make file or somewhere that I can just copy and paste things in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take out the command to run the playbook,
Mhm.
and I'll go through make files as well just briefly at the end because they're really, really useful. So let's have a look at what we're going to run on the command line here. We've got Ansible playbook because we've installed Ansible previously. If you want information on how to install Ansible, you have to really go online and look at your platform and then install the repo. The other thing you'll need to do as well is install the Juniper modules as well.
Yeah.
Now, you notice I'm being quite vague about this because a lot of the time the instructions for doing this will change. And in this video, we're in 2023. It could easily change next week, next month, or next year. So it's pointless in kind of going over that because it will be out of date pretty quickly. So yeah, install Ansible, install the Juniper modules. And then what we're going to do is we've got Ansible playbook, which is the command, -i, which is it stands for inventory.
Yeah.
And our inventory files is ini file, which we were just looking at, and then the name of the playbook, which
Mhm.
has an extension of YML, which is YAML. So it's in a YAML file format because Ansible uses YAML. So let's just run this. It should connect to the device. It should execute the playbook. Okay, done. It
Awesome.
worked. So let's just go back up and see what happened. So we've got the play, the name of the playbook, execute CLI command on Juniper device. We've got the task show route. We got a status back of OK. We then displayed the output, and yeah, we can see the output. And if you look at the bottom here, we've got OK equals 2. So we ran 2 tasks. Both of them were successful. So we've got a nice green outcome. And changed is 0. So we didn't make any changes, of course. All these other values are 0 because, we didn't hit any problems.
Mm.
We didn't fail any tasks. Obviously, if we fail something, if something in this playbook didn't work, then we get a failure, and with this would go to 1. And there probably would be some red print as well along the way, red writing,
Yeah.
just to show it's failed.
Mhm.
So that's us. That's just running that playbook. I want to run the other playbook. We can have a look at. We can do that as well.
Mhm.
So we'll just run that one up.
So
And
this one, guys, is for NetConf. What we just saw was for CLI. Now this
yep,
is through the net using NetConf transport protocol.
correct. Yeah. So we've got the same um, inventory file, but we've got a different playbook. Okay, so let's just run that. Let's close this make file off as well while we're there. And fingers crossed, this should work. Right, so that worked.
Wow.
So just to remind you of what we had in the playbook for this, let's go back. So we told it to gather facts on the hardware and the interfaces. Now, there's only a subset of these things that you can get from Junos facts. So we can look at those and see, oh, there are different ones that we can use. Yes, there are, but there's a limit in terms of what they are. And so what we did is we by NetConf we gathered this information and then we just printed it to the screen.
Yeah.
Okay, and we got it in this nice sort of pretty
JSON format.
JSON format exactly. But
So
yeah, it's
guys,
come back in JSON and
so
it's sort of
just
printed
want
it in a pretty
my
way.
2 cents on JSON format. So it looks very uncannily similar to the Python dictionary structure.
Mm,
It will have these curly braces and everything will be within double quotes. But it is different. There are some differences. If you Google what is the difference between Python dictionary and JSON, you will find out. but it is my favorite data format because the output is very easy on the eyes, and it's laid out in a very nice structure. And say, for example, our next task is to, print out what is the Ansible underscore net underscore system value. It's very easy to navigate to that and print the output on the screen. Gary, actually, if you don't mind, can you also show us how can we extract this information from this output, the Ansible underscore net underscore version field from the output? How can we extract this value? How can we
Okay,
navigate to that particular key? Yes,
that particular
that's
key.
okay.
Yeah. Uh,
So it's a
it depends
long,
on where
it's
that
very
key's.
long output, yeah, as you
It's a
can.
long out. Yeah, it's going to be quite difficult to do that, Dewey, because what I'd need to do is take this into
Or
some other
maybe if we
program,
can just, yeah, okay. So
and
this
then
is,
I'd find out what the key structure is, because obviously there's a path to that particular field that you've asked
yeah.
for, which we
Maybe
would have
can
to
we just
navigate.
scroll to the top of the output, please? I
Yeah,
think we can just pick up that is not too deeply nested within the output.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just for
Because
demonstration
it's
purposes.
and that's kind of one of the issues with JSON here is the levels are
Hmm.
not obvious just by reading them. I'd have to go right to the top.
Yeah.
Okay, so you
So
can
let's just
see.
pick up this anything from this Ansible Net API.
So let's say we want to pick up uh, something that's at the top that's
Yeah,
easy to
yeah,
kind of grab.
yeah.
Because yeah, let's say
Ansible underscore net underscore API.
PI.
Yeah,
Yeah. Now it's probably unlikely we want to get this value, but
yeah,
let's just say we did because
yeah,
it's nice and easy. What we could do, let's create another task. Sorry, yeah, another task in this playbook, and we'll just put display. We'll call it display net API.
yeah,
Right. Okay. Let's do that. So, and then we could just say same variable,
yeah,
and then we just need to put the key in
yeah,
for that particular.
yeah. So guys, the name has to match. So as you can see, result dot Ansible underscore facts. And within this dictionary, there is this value called Ansible underscore net underscore API.
At the root level as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's kind of, uh, you know, we're going to get this. We should get this just this particular key back on the
Yeah.
key value pair back. So let's try it.
Yeah.
But if it's a nested value, you've kind of got to look at. There's several ways you can do it. You could put this into YAML, and then you can see where the values. It's more easier to read in YAML than it is JSON, and you'd be able to find where the tree structure to get to that particular key, especially if it's nested. Or you could just like by hand have a look and see what level it's at. But it's quite difficult when it's scrolling off the screen like that. So let's run it again and let's see if we get the key back or if we get an error, because there's always a good chance with Ansible of getting an error. No, we didn't.
Wow.
We got the key back. So there we go. We got that value back, which was netconf. So
Brilliant.
it went down one level and it pulled off that value for us. So yeah, that's how you would do it. The other thing I was going to suggest was seeing the playbook fails. So let's add in something that is not accepted. Let's say by this module. So we'll say we'll make up one. We'll call it version. So we'll try and gather facts on version. I can't remember if version works. I might be wrong here. It might work. But something random in there that
Hmm.
doesn't work. Actually, we'll do versions because
Just do
I can't
light,
remember.
maybe, yeah, versions. Yeah, that's
Yeah, we'll do that. That shouldn't work, right?
hmm.
I don't think there's a
No. No.
valid one of those. So let's try it. Oh, there we go. We've
Yeah.
got a failure back from Ansible, but the best thing about this failure is and it's quite unusual for Ansible, is it's telling you exactly what's
Yeah.
wrong. So we've got you can either have config, default, hardware, or interfaces,
Hmm.
but we got versions, so it's telling us, you're using something that's not valid. So if we
Yeah.
change that to config,
Yeah.
it should work. Or something else we could use. What else? We've got default there as well. So let's try that. But yeah, you can see it's gone red, and you can see also it doesn't bother running the other tasks underneath. Once it hits a failed task, it stops the whole thing dead. Now
Yeah.
you can get it to ignore that. You can do skip.
Yeah.
You can skip over the task and say if it fails, just carry on.
I think it's ignore errors, isn't it? I'm just speaking from memory. Ignore errors. It will just ignore the error and move on to the next task in the playbook.
Yeah, exactly. You can get it to do that if you want to. Generally speaking, you probably want it to stop dead when it hits a problem rather than continue, because that might have some implications depending on what you're doing. But let's run it again. And it's going off and it's pulling off that information for us. And we should get the config as well, hopefully. Yeah, looks like we're getting something that looks like the configuration back. Yeah, we are. We're getting also show interfaces. I can't easily see if we're getting everything back.
So, Gary, you're saying in real production networks where we can expect a lot of output from
Mm.
a device, it's best to convert this into YAML. Is that what you're suggesting if you want to uh, parse the
Well,
data or if you want to get to a particular field? Yeah. What would be your recommendation?
it depends. Unfortunately, it's like one of those things. I was just saying that in the situation where you're trying to find out which key it is inside that whole output, that JSON output, I would have put it into YAML. Then it would be easier to spot by the naked eye what level that particular key that I was looking for was, or where it existed.
Let's see.
Um, so that's what I was explaining there. If you're talking about formats generally, obviously YAML is going to be more human readable
Hmm.
and
Just curious, do
compared
we
to
have any?
JSON.
Yeah. So I was just wondering, do we have any tools out there that help us pass these nested information? Just trying to think.
Uh, you could obviously use Python scripts. That would be the normal way of doing it. So if you want to iterate through some JSON to find a particular key in a particular value, then you would normally use Python and a for loop, and you just iterate over the data. So you'd load the JSON in
Mhm,
Python,
mhm.
and then you would just use a for loop, um,
Yeah.
which is the usual way you do it. There are some other tools out there. There's PyATS has got a tool that's pretty useful, called DQ, and
Yeah,
that's quite
that's
cool.
yeah.
That actually lets you pull out
Yeah.
information
Mm,
without, because it's a program that's actually doing it for you. You've
mhm.
also got things like JQ, and there's some other tools that specifically deal with JSON and YAML as well. So, but generally speaking, I've used sort of custom Python scripts, to pull stuff out, really, because it's generally speaking, it's down to what if you want to do at that particular time.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
cool.
just my personal preference.
Good.
Um,
That's good. Thank you.
yeah, so that's that's pretty much the playbooks. Just want to talk a bit about YAML as well, since we were on the topic anyway. So YAML it stands for yet another markup language, I think,
Yes. Yes.
and it's structured. So it does look very human readable. I'm sure you can agree. You can sort of read that and make some sense of it. Particularly if I go to this CLI one, which is even simpler, you can see the structure. But the things to remember with YAML are these spaces are indentation, and they're really, really important. So if if this indentation is not correct, then the YAML file will have an error. But you can get some YAML validator tools online, or you can download a YAML validator tool just to make sure your YAML file is correct. Because if I do something like, let's say on this one, if I go back to running this playbook, this one, let's say I just put a space in here like that. This is gonna, I mean, it's gone red already. So it's, before I even run this, it's telling me this is not right. It's broken. It's broken, right? It's just saying error. We're unable to read either as JSON or YAML. It's because it's not a valid YAML file. As soon as I hit that space bar there,
Yeah.
it's now busted it. The other thing that will bust it is tabs, because it's very tempting to use tabs, but YAML does not support tabs. So like if you look at this debug line, well, actually what we'll do is we'll create a new task for this, just the same as what it was before. But it's where we've got like debug, I'm going to delete that back, and I'm going to use tabs now to put it to the same position. I'm pretty certain this will not work. Yeah. But then if you look at this file, you'd be saying, what's wrong with it? It looks the same.
Yeah.
What's but the problem is you've now got tabs.
You've got hidden characters, and guys, this I have come across this issue in a production network. My script was properly indented. You couldn't fault it. It was just like what Gary showed us. But there is a command in VI editor, and it basically highlights all the hidden characters that you can't see. And basically, when you remove them and when you just retype everything, then it works fine. I will be sharing that command how to check for these hidden characters in the description as well. Gary, that's a great point that you just mentioned. I have come
Yeah,
across it, and it just annoys you because you think that all the indentation is okay. So why is it not working?
yeah, it can be quite frustrating, those sort of things. There's some other sort of small gotchas with it as well, corner cases, special cases, whatever you want to call them. So it can lull you into a bit of a false sense of security, thinking YAML's simple, but there are gotchas with it like that. Those are the most common things you'll come across.
Yeah.
The other thing to say as well is, you notice these dashes. This represents like a list in Python. So
Mhm.
it means that you can obviously specify more than one of these. So each one is a kind of list item. So that'll be like 0, that'll be 1, and so on. And you could also, we could also do something here. I think this will work. We could put another command in here as well,
Yeah.
and maybe another one. Let's say show. What should we put in here? Show
Config,
system. Sorry,
config, I was saying, show.
show configuration. That's a good one. Thanks, Julie. I was just struggling then to think in Juniper speak, Junos
Yeah.
world for a minute.
Yeah.
So let's run that. Obviously, it's changed the tasks. We're not going to update the descriptions on the tasks, just to demo it. So it's doing, it's doing more than what we originally had. But oh, okay. Yeah, we just said standout line 0, so we're only printing the first one. So what we need to do is take that to, I think we can do that.
Yeah.
We can get all of it, hopefully.
And guys, this thing is also worth mentioning. Gary took out the zero within a list. That is very important. Which part of the output you want to target? Do you want to target the whole output, or within that output list element zero? That is also very important. That
Yeah,
has got me out several times as well. Yeah.
so by taking it off altogether, we've got all 3 commands. But let's say, let me undo that, put that back to 0. Let's say we want to get the show version output. We could make that a 1, and now we'll get the second item
Hmm.
in the list, which is show version instead.
Yeah.
But bear in mind, we're capturing all of this. It's just what we're printing to the screen. So let's clear it, run it. And yeah, there's the show version output. And we're printing that to the screen. And obviously we could do some further logic with this. We could take this into an Ansible plugin, or we could do the logic within Ansible itself. The kind of decision is yours. My personal preference is always to take it into Python, because I'm happier working in Python than using the DSL logic within Ansible to kind of do things. I just find it's a lot simpler in Python, but that's my personal preference. So this is where the confusion around Ansible being easy versus
Yeah.
not comes into play, because if you start to work in complex logic into this within Ansible, it gets very, very complicated to manage and work with. So my default is always break out into Python and do logic in
Yeah.
Python.
And we can also create our own custom Ansible modules. I remember doing it
Yes,
once. Yeah, that is a great feature as well. And basically, that lets you leverage the power of Python in the background, creating your own Ansible modules. That is quite
absolutely.
useful. And also, Ansible is idempotent. So it's smart enough to understand that if a particular task has been done, it won't repeat it. It
Absolutely. And then just the final thing to mention, Dewey, here is just this make file, because it just if I can sell this to the audience, that make files are really, really cool, fantastic, because they take all this effort out of remembering commands and typing things in and typos and things, especially if you're going to run something over and over again. It's just painful to keep typing things in. So make files, they're not supported on all operating systems, unfortunately. So I think on Windows they're not supported, but most operating systems they are supported, like Mac and Linux. Um, just really, really useful. So if I type make, let me just clear the screen. So instead of typing out that long command or even copying and pasting it, I can just type make CLI, and now it runs the playbook. So again, it's dumbing things down, it's making things more simple, because if your user who's going to run this playbook, they're going to get confused with all the syntax, the -i, the
Yeah.
ini file, whatever. So just use a make file and
Mhm.
present it that way. So I can do make CLI, I can do make netconf, which just runs the netconf one again. This one always takes a few seconds. It's just done. Now, if I want to run both of the playbooks at the same time,
Mhm.
I can do make run all.
Oh,
And what that will do is it'll pull in all the steps inside the CLI step and all the steps inside the netconf step and run both of them one after the other. Now you can do this in Ansible as well. You can run multiple playbooks, but I just prefer using make files for this kind of thing. Just makes more sense to me. But
that's
like I said, there
that's
are other
brilliant.
ways of doing it. So yeah, I just going to say if you take a look at make files, they're really, really useful.
No, that's brilliant demonstration, Gary. Thank you so much. Just conscious we've got 5 minutes left. So, if you guys have any other questions regarding what Gary demonstrated today, please let us know in the comments. We will try to answer it. And Gary, as always, thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you.
Thank you, Dewey. Thanks all. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks.
Bye.